We may have the summer doldrums in the financial markets, but there still is a lot for investors to be thinking about. Breaking it down with me, Mohamed El-Erian, the CEO of Pimco. He wrote a piece for us earlier this week about Europe in which you talked about how you compare Europe in some respects to being an unstable hammock, if you will. You want to talk a little bit more about that piece you did for us?
Sure. The origin is that I got asked lots of questions about Europe. And the minute I started using technical terms like sudden stop, path dependencies, multiple equilibria, I got this blank stare. And one day I was trying to sit on a hammock, which I don't do very often, and I realized that my difficulty of sitting on the hammock was similar to what Europe was facing. Think about it. If you're trying to relax on a hammock, your initial positioning is critical. If you don't get that right, and you find yourself very uncomfortable on the hammock, it is very difficult to adjust. You try to edge along, you risk tipping over. The right thing to do is to get up and start again, but you could fall over trying to do that. And that's exactly what has happened in Europe. The initial conditions were not right, and they've been trying to adjust on the fly and haven't been able to, but they are too scared to start over again. So that's how that image came into my mind.
Right. Are you worried at all, to take that analogy a little bit further, are you worried perhaps that Mario Draghi and maybe some of his predecessors, Jean-Claude Trichet and other European sovereign leaders, right now maybe they're just sitting on the hammock and hoping it doesn't sway at all, and that might be the big problem? It's so many people, I think, have been critical of Europe for taking this piecemeal approach to the crisis and not taking the drastic measures that might be necessary.
I think President Draghi gets it. He understands that you need to take drastic measures. The problem is that he doesn't have the tools. He has to rely on other entities, both national and regional. And so far, these other entities haven't been able to move. And they haven't been able to move because of a number of reasons, most importantly, political polarization, both across countries and within countries.
Right. This is a good segue to questions about the Federal Reserve. Clearly, your colleague Bill Gross saying, I believe now, an 80% chance of QE3. Do you think QE3 is that likely? And if so, is it actually necessary?
Well, the minutes that were released this week of the last Fed meeting certainly suggest that QE3 is likely. Is it desirable? Big question mark. I don't think QE3 can deliver outcomes. What QE3 can do is buy time for the U.S., hoping, fingers crossed, hoping that other government entities in housing, in credit, in infrastructure, and in fiscal will be able to get the act together. So that's what the Fed is trying to do. It is unlikely to deliver outcomes. It is just providing a bridge, and hopefully it will be a bridge to somewhere.
Right. No, that's a great point. We know that Ben Bernanke has been very vocal, saying that he wants Congress to essentially do its job and avoid this fiscal cliff that many people are worried about, and that monetary policy can only go so far. Are you nervous that Congress may mess this up and actually send the U.S. economy over that feared fiscal cliff?
Yes, we are. Our baseline scenario is that nothing happens vis-a-vis the fiscal cliff until the elections. During the lame duck session, they postponed the fiscal cliff for a few months, and they pass on the problem to the new Congress and whoever's in the White House in January. That is our baseline scenario. That scenario wouldn't be so bad if there weren't other things happening at the same time. We talked about Europe. There's geopolitical concerns coming out of the Middle East and Iran. And let's not forget there are other areas, the labor market, where there are problems. So our concern is this continuous dithering by Congress is actually going to increase the risk of something going bad.